the anxiety is an alarm box. The amygdala are just like the alarm box in your house. It could alarm if there's burnt toast, or it could alarm if there's a real fire.
Do you ever feel like you're living in Doechie's song, Anxiety? Like you got to keep it off, but no matter how hard you try, you just can't shake it. And it leaves you wondering, what am I supposed to do about my anxiety? Well, that's exactly the question that we're answering today as we kick off this new Big Questions series on After 4. This week, we're joined by Nader Sayuni, licensed clinical counselor, spiritual director, and friend of the podcast. Nader is also the author of Anxiety Transformed, Prayer That Brings Enduring Change. And over the next couple of weeks, Nader is going to share 3 practical steps that he recommends for developing a healthier approach to managing anxiety. 3 steps that are based on prayer practices, therapeutic practices, and neuroscience. And I think it's going to help all of us take a practical, gracious approach to managing anxiety with Jesus by our side. Welcome to After 4, your podcast for navigating life after graduation. I'm your host and guide, John Steele, and this one's for you, alumni. Nader, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
Yes, and I guess I should say welcome back. I mean, at this point, it's been a little while since the last time we were on the airwaves together, but we had a great time recording a few podcasts for a previous series, talking about some helpful tools for alumni as they make the spiritual transition and those kind of experiences they have after graduation. Definitely recommend people look those up. But Nader, you're going to help us with a whole new. We're going to open a whole new can of worms together today. We're in a series exploring some big questions that alumni are asking and wrestling with in this season of life after graduation. And one of the questions, one of the ideas that we want to look at is this interplay of anxiety, faith, prayer, maybe just some of the hard things that happen in our lives and in the world around us and the way that we engage with those things. I mean, Nader, I really want to believe that when Paul says in Philippians, do not be anxious about anything, I want to believe that's true. But to be honest, it's kind of difficult because so many of us, dare I say all of us in one way or another, anxiety is a part of our lives. And so I'm hoping that you can help give us some insight on why that reality exists, why that tension is there, what we should do about it, what should we actually believe about anxiety and prayer and our faith in a God who is capable, but still living in a broken world. So if you could just take care of all of that for us today, Nader, that would be really great.
I will do my best. At least I can tell you about how it worked in my life and how it works in the lives of people that I work with and try to help.
Yes, that'd be great.
And I'm glad you brought up the Philippians 4 passage. We'll definitely touch on that.
Okay.
Anxiety has been, unfortunately, a part of my story. I sort of inherited it. It began in my family 3 generations ago. My grandmother lived in the city of Antioch, the same Antioch that's in the Bible. And that's where she grew up in the early part of the 20th century. And that's where she experienced a lot of tragedy. This was in an era before antibiotics, before antiviral medications. And so a lot of the pandemics, a lot of epidemics that would go through the area, including Spanish flu during that time, took away her children. She lost 8 out of 13 kids.
Oh my goodness.
And it was devastating for her. And as you can imagine, it created a certain amount of anxiety around illness. And so anytime any of her surviving children would get sick, she would get anxious. Yeah. And as a result, my mother internalized that anxiety. And I didn't even know I had an anxiety disorder until I had kids. And then I realized every time one of my kids would get sick, I would start to get unreasonably anxious. And that really was kind of the beginning of a journey for me, because what anxiety did was it drove me to prayer. It drove me into the arms of Jesus. And as it did, I started to learn some prayer practices were more helpful than others
Hmm.
in dealing with anxiety. And some were downright not the best thing to do. And
Okay.
then when I became a therapist, a psychotherapist, I started to see why. Some prayer practices align with forms of therapy that are helpful for anxiety, and some don't. And that's when I started to put two and two together, and started to develop ways of praying that would be more helpful. And so that was kind of my journey. And then eventually, when I wrote a book about anxiety, I decided to incorporate some of the recent advances in brain science, because I think we get some good insights from that. And I have a tiny, tiny background in science that at least could help me translate some of this.
Okay.
If you're looking for an expert, that's not me, but I can translate, the brain science into everyday language. And so putting those three together, prayer practices, psychotherapy, some of the neuroscience, as well as my experience, that's kind of the story that I bring together. And the research that I started to look at in the brain science, I incorporated it into my writing, as well as these other three areas that we just talked about.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, this is interesting. It sounds to me like there are some modern advances that, and some modern research and understanding that backs up maybe some age-old practices, some things that people were already engaging with and were using that, like, oh, hey, these things really do help as a response to anxiety and fear. And I know those aren't necessarily the same thing, but that these are helpful responses that have actually been around for a long time, and then some that maybe are not quite so helpful. So that will be helpful to know, to be able to distinguish the two of those. And I know that this is something, as you said, that you've done your own research and writing on. I know that you've led some seminars around this topic, and seminars that have been like standing room only, essentially, people wanting to come in and be a part and to learn from these things. So I'm really excited to hear some of this old and new coming together that we can use for some of our own responses around anxiety in our lives. And so please, Nader, take us there. What are some of the things that you've been learning in your own personal life, and as you've grown as a professional as well, and as those have come together?
Yeah, so I like to summarize it, John, in what I call the 3 A's.
Okay.
The 3 A's of anxiety.
All right.
And I'll tell you what they are, and then we can dive into each one.
Perfect.
So the first A is avoid less. The second A is accept more. And the third A is attach better. And, before we dive in, let's just think about the brain a little bit. Let me just bring a little bit of the neuroscience in here.
Yeah.
There is a part of our brain that is very similar, essentially an identical structure to other mammals. I shouldn't say identical, but it's similar, right? Okay. It's called the limbic system. It's a part of where, like, strong emotions like fear, anxiety, and anger get provoked and processed. And there are two structures called the amygdala. They're like little walnut-sized things on each side of the brain, and that is not a part of the brain that speaks English. The anxiety is not happening in a part of the brain where we think rationally.
Oh, okay.
So the anxiety is an alarm box, and it alarms. There's an author called Dr. Kurt Thompson. He's a Christian psychiatrist. Did a great job at explaining this. He says, the amygdala are just like the alarm box in your house. It could alarm if there's burnt toast, or it could alarm if there's a real fire.
Yeah. Okay. It can't distinguish between something that's an emergency and something that isn't.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
And it's the job of the thinking brain, the adult logic brain that's above the left eye, the left prefrontal cortex. When that kicks in, then it tries to make sense. Is this really dangerous or not? And if it is, it calms down the amygdala.
Okay.
Right? It sends signals down to calm down the alarm box. And so when it does that successfully, great. No problem. It works as it should. When it doesn't do that successfully, and often it does not, then we have the experience of being anxious and knowing that we shouldn't be anxious.
Yes.
And usually when I give seminars and I ask how many people feel that, everybody raises their hand. It's universal, right? It's a universal experience.
Yes, I have an experience in my own mind that I can think of that, yes, you're taking me right to it, Nader. Okay. Yeah. I'm here for this, not just as a host, but as somebody who wants to learn. You've captured me. Here we go.
All right. So going to the first A then, avoidance. Avoid it. Let's say somebody's afraid of elevators, or they have an elevator phobia, right? Yeah. If they start to choose to take the stairs instead of the elevator, they are going to feel a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And that's what avoidance does. When we avoid the thing that makes us anxious, we feel a little bit better. That's good because we're not causing the alarm to go off and we're not anxious. Yeah. What's bad, though, is that because this is not the rational part of the brain, it learns differently. It learns by association. So it associates the fact that we're avoiding with the idea that there's something dangerous here. So when I take those stairs...
Yeah, you're reinforcing an unhelpful idea.
Exactly. You're training your brain to be anxious.
Yes.
Completely unknowingly.
Right.
Completely without even thinking about it. And you might even be thinking you're doing a healthy thing. It's like, hey, I'm going to get some exercise. And, it's more healthy for me to take the stairs, right? That's your left prefrontal cortex above your left eye. Your thinking brain is saying that.
Uh-huh.
The amygdala is not convinced.
Yes.
The action speaks way louder than the words. Because the amygdala learns by association primarily.
Wow.
Okay. And so, for example, what we see today with IV students and non-IV students alike, right? We all can think back to our teenage years. We all had to learn to be comfortable in conversations that we were a little bit afraid of having.
Yes.
Right? Talking to a professor, talking to a teacher, arguing about a grade, whatever, right? Things that we were a little bit shy of. If in those situations we choose to text instead of talking, what are we doing?
Sounds like avoiding.
Yes. And so our fear of conversations begins to increase.
Yes.
And pretty soon we start developing a social anxiety disorder. And we start to have social anxiety.
Wow.
So do you see how that kind of works together?
Yes, absolutely. And I can see the places that this happens in my own life or where I find myself sort of coming up against some of these things. Like, being an InterVarsity staff, like one of the things that I do is support raising. And so like the thought of calling a ministry partner and saying, hey, could you give an extra gift here at the end of the calendar year or the fiscal year or whatever request that I might have for somebody, I can talk myself into. It's quicker. It's more convenient for them too if I just send a text instead of call, but it's also significantly less like socially interactive. It's less relationship building. And honestly, like a place where I find myself having a level of anxiety that actually like physically concerns me right now. There's some stuff going on just around like exercise with me that if I start kind of losing my breath, I start getting anxious about that. And you start talking about like I know that I'm getting enough air intellectually, like I can, but to convince that amygdala that like it's okay, I'm getting enough air if I just give myself some space, that those two are not speaking the same language all the time. And so it makes me ask the question like, well, should I just stop doing that exercise? And then where does the logic end? Like, is that okay? Well, maybe this other one might cause that too, and I should stop doing that too. And it's better. I'm just better off not exexercing, which is just like worse.
You see where the train is going, right?
Yes, exactly. It gets really bad really fast. So I'm going to be interested to know then. Well, what do you do when you feel like, well, I should just avoid, or I should just stop doing, like, what is the proper response then?
So what I suggest for people is to do discernment. So the first step is, God, should I be facing this? Or is it a wise thing to avoid? John, I don't know if you have a heart condition that says that you shouldn't do this stuff.
Sure.
You know, I mean, if you have a heart condition, then, you know, you should listen to your doctor. And maybe that is something you should avoid.
As far as I know, I don't.
Avoidance is a rational, healthy thing that keeps us from danger, right?
Right.
So one of the things I teach people to do is, if you can't tell, if you are not clear on whether this is a real danger or not, that you should be avoiding or not avoiding, go to someone you trust who is wise and who loves you, and ask them for input. Because if that person who is not anxious, they have to be not anxious, by the way. They can't be somebody who shares your anxiety.
That's helpful. Sort of. Yeah. Good call.
So, for example, I'll give you an example from my own life. So I'm at a restaurant and I'm having a piece of chicken. I'm having chicken shawarma. And my friend knows that I struggle with this stuff. I'm having lunch with him. And a piece of chicken shawarma falls on the table. And my friend, and I start looking at it. And my friend knows exactly what I'm struggling with. I'm struggling whether should I avoid picking it up and eating it because it got dirty from the table. Is the table clean enough? Of course, if it's not clean enough, I shouldn't, right? Yeah. But if it's clean enough and I avoid doing it, I'm reinforcing my, fear of germs. And so my friend looks at me, he goes, Nader, it's clean enough. You can eat it. I didn't even have to say anything.
That's really funny.
And so in order to push myself, in order to not avoid, I grabbed it and stuffed it in my mouth. And thank God I survived. I'm still here. So,
yes.
So, there are situations where people do get, the amygdala does make a connection between being out of breath and panic. And that develops panic disorder for some people. For some people, it's feeling a little nauseous. I had one person where it was sundown, because something would happen at sundown during, an experience that she had. I don't have her permission to share it, so we won't. But, just recognizing what the trigger is then helps us to start noticing, is this something that we are just associating, that we need to break that association. So once we figure out, okay, this is safe, I need to change it, or I need to face this, and we have a confirmation from somebody we trust if we are not clear on it. The second thing is to pray for the strength and the courage and the motivation to not avoid.
Yeah.
And then finally, if we can't do it on our own, which a lot of times we can't, then we can ask other people to pray for us. We can maybe do it with somebody. So we have somebody with us that gives us relational and emotional support. Right? So those are things that we can do to overcome the first day.
Yes. Okay. And it's interesting that, as you said, there are times that avoiding is adaptive, that it is actually good. There are things that it is time for us to avoid really at times. Avoid. The problem comes when we associate things that are actually not nearly as unsafe as our amygdala is sort of telling us that it's actually not to the degree that my brain is telling me it is right now. And so I need to discern that, it's okay, actually, this is not that bad, and I just need some help being able to continue engaging with it instead of avoiding it. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
It's just burnt toast.
Yes, it's just burnt toast. It is not a house fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The good news is that one area where this analogy of the alarm box breaks down is that the alarm box in our brain does learn.
Okay.
So the next time there's brain toast, if I did not run out of the house, if I actually turned off the alarm and did not run out of the house, in other words, if I didn't avoid, the next time it won't alarm.
Nice.
Because it learned by the experience that I did not do this. And it's very quick learning. It's amazing.
That is amazing.
It's very quick learning.
Which is why we need to do the hard thing and avoid less.
Yes.
Yes.
And if it can be done in small increments, that's best.
Yes. Yes. Sort of a graduated exposure therapy.
Yes. It's called systematic desensitization.
Yes. There it is.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But just keep in mind when you're doing it, it's okay for the anxiety to get a little bit worse before it gets better.
That is helpful to know, that this is not just an immediate like, okay, I step in and the sort of the clouds clear and everything is just fine, that there may be a moment of increased anxiety before it decreases. But then that training will help it so that it happens a little faster, a little more consistently, time after time after time.
Exactly. So if we go back to the elevator example, let's say I have somebody in my office who's came in for an elevator phobia. So then we would work on a graduated list. We'd start with, okay, can you think about an elevator? And then can you look at a picture of an elevator? Can you go stand in the lobby of a building with an elevator? Can you stand in front of the elevator? Can you push the button and get in and out a few times? Can you go up one story with a friend? And you can see it just keeps going until you conquer that fear. But at every single step, the anxiety will get a little bit worse before it gets better.
Yes. Okay.
In general, that's how it works. There are situations where it's more complex, but in general, that is how it works.
Okay.
So that pretty much wraps up the first day.
Yes. Okay. So we avoid less, and we do that by discerning, by inviting trusted people in to help us, by asking for the strength and the ability to lean in, even though anxiety might increase a little bit before it decreases, and then that takes us to the next A of accept more.
Accept more. Yeah.
Accept more.
So this one is more complicated.
Okay.
But it also works quickly, just like avoidance does.
All
so the first two A's are low-hanging fruit. They're not easy, but they do work relatively quickly. We're talking, sometimes within minutes, definitely within hours. And if it takes anything longer than half an hour, you probably shouldn't be doing it. So let's talk about the second A for a minute.
Sure.
The big temptation when we are anxious is to try to get some reassurance that everything's okay. And we can do that in a variety of ways. There are so many different ways that we can seek reassurance. One way that's familiar to InterVarsity students and InterVarsity leaders is there's sometimes a small group leader will go to their staff worker and say, "Oh, I'm feeling really bad about the way small group went last week. I just did not do a good job. This and this and this happened." And they're feeling a little bit anxious about how they led. And the staff worker's temptation would be to give them reassurance. "Oh no, you're great. You did fine. You did wonderful." Right? First time, that's okay. Builds confidence. It's good affirmation, etc.
Sure.
Second time, why is this happening again? Third time, the pattern starts to tell us that what we're trying to do is calm the anxiety with some reassurance, which once again, at the beginning is fine. And there's a certain level of that is okay. But if it crosses a certain threshold, then it begins to once again train the amygdala that there's something to be anxious about.
Okay.
When it starts to become a little bit unreasonable, then it's starting to train the amygdala. The amygdala interprets it as, oh, there's something really anxiety provoking. There's something dangerous about the way I lead small groups. I'm going to get rejected. I'm going to get hurt. Whatever.
So even if this person is avoiding less by continuing to go back and lead small group each week, there might be a certain amount of undoing by the unhelpful reassurance that's happening with their staff each time, saying, "Oh, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay."
Exactly.
Okay.
And I do deal with clients who ping pong between the two.
Okay.
You can think of them as two sides of a goalpost, right? Too much one direction, you don't score. Too much the other direction, you don't score.
Yeah.
You have to be within what's reasonable, within those two goalposts.
Yeah. Interesting.
Like the way that works itself out in my relationship with my wife, for example. If, let's say, we have an argument and I feel like I hurt her feelings, so I apologize. All right. She forgives me. We're okay. But then a few minutes later, I was like, maybe she's still hurt. I feel really bad. Maybe she is still rejecting me. Maybe I'm still going to pay the price for this. So I ask again, honey, are we okay? Are you sure you're not hurt? Once again, the first time, that's okay. It's humble. Yeah. It's intimacy building. It's vulnerable, right? So it's good. Mm-hmm. But let's say I do it 2 or 3 times. What am I doing? I'm training my amygdala to think that my marriage is not safe.
Yeah.
This relationship is not secure.
And that you can't believe your wife when she tells you that everything is okay, which is really not helpful.
Exactly, John. You nailed it. Huh. That's right. So the example I give, there's kind of a humorous example from my life with this. So in the early days of smartphones, there was this thing called a BlackBerry.
Yes.
You remember it, John?
I do remember.
Many of our V students probably don't remember.
Very tiny buttons.
Yes, very small buttons on the smartphone, right?
Yeah.
And so the company that I worked for issued me a BlackBerry. And it had a little clip that I would wear on my waist, on my belt. And my kids thought it was the most uncool thing. And they would rag on me about not doing that. But, I didn't listen. It was convenient. And I'm a nerd anyway, so what does it matter?
It's all right, Nader. My dad did the same thing. He had the belt clip. Your
dad? Oh, please, John.
I love you, Dad.
So one time, though, I had the BlackBerry on the belt clip on my belt, and I was in the men's room, and I was standing at the urinal, and it fell on the floor. And it fell face down. And the floor was wet.
Oh, no.
And I was like trying to think, oh, my God, is there some way I can get rid of this BlackBerry? I'm willing to pay the cost for it, but I can't because it belongs to the company. How am I going to explain this, right? I can't walk up to them and say, hey, I have all this germophobia. I can't touch this thing. Right? They're going to laugh at me.
Yeah.
So I got some paper towels. I grabbed it. I went back to my desk. I laid it down like an operating room table and, went and got a whole bunch of alcohol wipes and I started wiping. Well, the more I wiped, the more I needed to wipe.
Yeah, right.
Because I was reassurance seeking and I kept wiping and I kept wiping and I kept wiping. So finally I realized I can't stop. So I ended up calling my friend again. I said, hey, Dale, this is what happened. First he goes, ew, that's disgusting. And then he goes, okay, well, how many times have you wiped it? How many wipes have you used? I said, I don't know, like 17. And he's like, Nader, I think you're safe. I think it's good.
You're good.
So then I, just tried not to wait too long. I grabbed the phone, I stuck it to my face, and once again, I survived. So
yeah. Oh, man.
So it gives you an idea of like how reassurance seeking works, and it gives you an idea how somebody else can help. Right? How getting an emotional resource to give us some clarity around where's the line of unreasonableness.
Avoid less and accept more. Those probably feel easier said than done, and I think Nader has probably said as much here. It's not easy, it's not comfortable, and it might not even feel safe. But what would it look like to spend some time discerning with the Lord and a licensed therapist, a spiritual director, a pastor, and determining with him or with them, are the things that are setting off the smoke alarm in your brain actually a house fire or just burnt toast? And if it's just burnt toast, what does it look like to buddy up with Jesus, and maybe those other people too, and take brave, healthy steps toward that thing so that it holds less power over you and stops setting off the alarm? What kind of impact might that have on your quality of life? Alumni, come back next week for the rest of my conversation with Nader. I ask him to clarify a little further what it means to accept more, and then we wrap up with the third A, attach better. Until then, consider sharing this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and I will see you in the after, alumni. Thanks for listening to After 4. This podcast is brought to you by the InterVarsity Alumni Relations Team, hosted and produced by John Steele, production assistance by Mike Zentera, edited by Caleb Leppert, and our After 4 theme music was written and performed by John Steele.